Good morning and welcome to Mystery, Murder, and Magic. I'm your host, Andrea. Now, y'all, if you listened to Saturday's episode of the Weekend Weird Files, you heard me at the beginning of the show talking about something that we've planned to do this coming Saturday. But if you didn't, I'll give you the rundown. In the town of Bowman, South Carolina, they have what they call a drive-through Halloween scare mile. And what it is a haunted trail that you drive through. It's on the grounds of Southeast Outdoor Adventure Center on Dibble Street there in Bowman. And the best part is that no matter how many people you safely, and I can't stress that enough, safely pack into your car, it's only a flat fee of $20. And it's cash only, so no debit cards, no checks, or anything like that. So it has to be cash. Now, they also say if you have a truck, and if your friends are brave enough, they can ride in the back of the truck. Now, they open at 7. On the nights that they do that, they're open from 7 to 11. And there's still 2 Saturdays that they're doing it, and that will be the 16th and the 23rd. So, where does a podcast fit in on all of this? Well, Alex Nicholas and I are going to do the drive-through scare mile, and we'll be going live, provided that there's an adequate connection so that I can go live from my phone. But anyway, as I, figure out the time and everything, because it's about an hour and a half drive for us, but I'll post more on our social networks. But anyway, I think it's going to be a good time. And, I think it'll be kind of funny for everybody to hear our reactions as we drive through and hopefully get a good scare. And it'll also be funny to hear Alex scream like a little girl. So, moving on to today's episode, one thing that has always interested me in the horror or paranormal world is demonic possessions. Now, it seems like you don't hear a whole lot about them taking place anymore, but maybe I'm just living under a rock. But I did a little research, and I found a true story that took place back in 2016 in North London, and that's what we'll be talking about today. Mystery, murder, and magic, heroes, and Alice. Now, most of us have seen at least one possession movie, maybe The Conjuring, The Possession of Hannah Grace, or maybe The Exorcist. I think we've all seen The Exorcist. But one of my favorites is one that didn't get very good reviews or make tons of money at the box office. But I found that it was a really good one, and that was The Vatican Tapes. Now, as a matter of fact, I just watched it last night. It's on Hulu right now if you want to check it out. But I can't really pinpoint one single exact reason that I'm drawn to exorcism movies, but they just really pull me in. I don't know, maybe it's one of those things that actually could happen in real life. But anyway, the way Hollywood portrays these exorcisms isn't really what anyone should be trying at home. And maybe they should even have a warning at the beginning, because things can go really deadly wrong if you don't know what you're doing, and sometimes even if you know what you're doing. But now, the story that I was referring to that took place back in 2016 is the story of 26-year-old Kennedy Ife. Now, this isn't from a horror movie. This isn't from a Stephen King novel. This is a real-life story. Now, there's a lot of unknowns in this story, and it may have you, or it may leave you with a lot of questions. But having said that, I feel like we need to talk about it. Now, Kennedy's family started noticing really strange behavior one morning. He complained about his throat hurting, and soon after that, he started just acting aggressively. Now, he mentioned that he needed to take a break from their church, and this troubled his very religious parents. And at one point, he bit his father, and then threatened to cut his own penis off, and then threatened to rape a young girl. And maybe the strangest thing was that he was complaining that there was a snake-like creature living inside of him. Well, at that point, the family, they decided that, they needed to restrain Kennedy. So, with excessive force, they secured him to his bed with cable ties, ropes, and handcuffs. Well, later, one of Kennedy's brothers would explain that they had to keep him restrained so that he didn't hurt himself or any of the family members. Now, after everybody had calmed down there in the house, the dad allowed Kennedy to take a walk with two of his brothers, but it wasn't long before his wild behavior started again. He ripped off his shirt, and this is, mind you, while they're all the three of them were taking a walk. It's Kennedy and two of his brothers. He tried to punch his brother Colin, and he attempted to headbutt Roy. So he was restrained again. Soon they were talking about performing an exorcism. Now, to me, it seems like if you really and truly believe that your loved one is possessed and in need of an exorcism, you would call in a priest or someone who knows what they're doing. There's just no way that I would take that on myself. But also, there's the fact that he'd complained about pain in his throat. And I might be wrong, but I don't think that's a symptom of being possessed. I don't know. I do remember last night when I was watching the Vatican tapes that the girl that this movie is about, she did complain of a sore throat. So maybe it is. I don't know. But anyway, I've never been possessed before. But anyway, instead of taking Kennedy to a doctor, Kennedy's mom, Josephine, she went to their minister for advice. Now, there's so many other things that they could have done, and this story would have a totally different ending, or maybe wouldn't even be a story at all. I mean, you could call medical professionals, or at the very least the police, so they could assess the situation and see what needs to be done. But this family, for whatever reason, they didn't do that. And they decided that Kennedy needed an exorcism, and they were going to do it themselves. Now, one thing you should know about the I family is they're not just some random yahoos or whatever. Now, the father of this family, he has a PhD in mineral engineering, and he's been pictured meeting the Queen. And they live in a 7-bedroom mansion in North London, so they're not dumb. I mean, they're all very educated people, and they're the quite affluent family in their area. Well, they believed that through prayer and restraining Kennedy, this would cure him. So that's what the family did for 3 days. These people were so sure that he had a demon within him, or something that was not of this world, and it was trying to end his life from the inside. Now, I guess kind of like a disease, but after those 3 days, one of Kennedy's brothers decided it was time to call for medical assistance, because when he called emergency services, he explained that Kennedy was dehydrated and he's starting to have breathing troubles. Well, unfortunately, Kennedy was pronounced dead at just a little after 10 that same morning. And not only did his family think they could exorcise the demons out of him, But after he passed away, one of his brothers tried to resurrect him. And yes, you heard me correct. I said resurrect him. When police arrived on the scene of at the home, members of the family were chanting, "We call him to the land of the living in the name of Jesus." All 7 members of Kennedy's family who had participated in his exorcism were suspected of manslaughter, and when the case went to court, his father, 64-year-old Dr. Kenneth Ive, told the jury that he ordered his sons to take shifts watching over Kennedy, and even gave them permission to use as much strength as they needed to keep Kennedy restrained. But he also told the jury that he was not associated with any cults, the occult, or any secret society that had anything to do with Kennedy's death, and by that he was referring to his Nigerian background. However, it was brought out during the trial that the family was connected with some strange religious beliefs, and they were associated with the Jesus Sanctuary Ministries. And the Jesus Sanctuary Ministries is a charismatic Pentecostal church. But in court, Kennedy's brother Roy told the jurors that they hadn't sought professional help because it was a domestic issue. And then he went on to say that Kennedy was suffering just from a lack of sleep. But their brother Colin said that at one point Kennedy had gone on a tangent about the number 666 being the mark of the beast. Now, after testifying at the trial, or also not after, gosh, it's early, okay, is all I can say. But also testifying at this trial was a minister who says that he visited Kennedy just 2 days before he passed away. He told the court that to him it looked like Kennedy had a fever, and apparently this minister wasn't the only one who visited Kennedy, because he stated that another 2 ministers had prayed over Kennedy with him. The minister says that when the 3 of them entered the home, he saw Kennedy lying on the sofa. It looked like Kennedy was texting on his phone, and Kennedy told the minister hi, and when he looked him in the eyes, though, he could tell that the young man was very sick and he looked exhausted. He also went on to say that he had never seen Kennedy tied up in any way. Well, the autopsy revealed that Kennedy had over 60 wounds on his body, and some of those looked like human bite marks. The official cause of death was cardiac arrest, and despite all of that, Kenneth, his wife Josephine, and their 5 sons, Colin, Harry, Roy, Daniel, and Samuel, denied that they were responsible for Kennedy's death. The jury deliberated for 4 days, and in spite of all the overwhelming evidence that was brought against them in the trial, including those autopsy results, all 7 members of the family were found not guilty on March 14, 2019. Not guilty. It just blows my mind, and I honestly don't believe that. His family, I don't believe they set out to murder him, but they were responsible for his death, and I think they should be held accountable. Now, in all the research that I did for this episode, I couldn't find a single reason as to why the jury went that way with this trial. But another thing that I learned in my research is that exorcisms are quite popular these days. If you'll remember at the beginning of the show, I said I didn't hear much of them anymore. But I guess I was wrong. Maybe I am living under a rock. But it's become such a popular thing that in 2017, the Catholic rite of exorcism was translated to English, and in May of 2019, the Vatican held an exorcism training convention in Rome. So what brought this on? Well, it seems that a rise in the numbers of people following the Pentecostal denomination of Christianity is what has brought this on. And you would, to me, that's just like weird in itself, because I did not know until I did the research for this episode that the Pentecostals did exorcisms. I've always just thought that was a Catholic thing, but now in the U.S. there are over 20 million followers of Pentecostalism, and worldwide it's thought that 10% of the world's population are Pentecostal. Now, the Pentecostal church believes that evil is a real physical existence and not just a feeling or something abstract. An article in the Atlantic brought to light that over half of all Americans believe that demonic possession is a real thing, and over 70% believe in the devil. The statistics in the UK are much smaller, but the IVE case did happen in the UK, so there's that. Where things can go wrong in an exorcism is quite simple, and in the Catholic faith, you can't just go do an exorcism. You have to be trained in that practice. And if you really and truly feel that you need to do an exorcism on this person, you have to get permission by your, from your bishop. So you can't just go be like, okay, I'll go do this exorcism. Now, Hollywood often portrays these exorcisms that are almost always carried out by a priest in these movies as this big flamboyant ceremony type ritual, whatever, but it's always like in a bedroom with somebody tied up. But anyway, experts say that that is very much the opposite, and that the flamboyant, almost theatrical performances of an exorcism come from the Pentecostals. And the thing, and these preachers and even members of the congregation of the Pentecostal church, there's also members of the congregation that perform these exorcisms, and they're not trained and they're not regulated. Honestly, if you're going to be casting out demons, I feel that you should know more than what you learn from like a movie or a YouTube video. Now, I don't even know if there's like a exorcism how-to video on YouTube. I'm just saying, but it honestly wouldn't surprise me, because you can find a little bit of like everything on YouTube these days. Well, as I got deeper and deeper into the exorcism research, I started wondering about the statistics, but there's like not official statistics. Like there's not a graph or a chart that gives numbers by like country or continent or whatever. But I did find more and more articles talking about the rise of the popularity of exorcisms, and every article that I found, they all mention, and I don't want to use the word blame, so maybe attributed would be a better word. So they attributed it to the Pentecostalization of Christianity. And it's a very interesting fact that the Pentecostal church brought exorcism to the forefront of its practice in the 70s, because of the importance they place on spirits. And by spirits, that's both like the Holy Spirit and demon spirits. Now, Pentecostalism It's really the only Protestant branch that practices exorcism. Well, as if it was a competition, the Catholic Church decided they really needed to step up their game when it came to exorcism. So that's when the Vatican decided to hold that training conference. Now, at that conference, there was like more than 250 priests from 51 countries. Now, whether you believe in demons or evil forces is totally up to you. I personally believe that if you feel something sinister spiritually has taken over a loved one, you shouldn't take it upon yourself to cure them from that. Please seek professional help from either a priest or a medical professional, or heck, even both. Well, that's all I have for today. I do want to remind you guys again that we can be found on YouTube, and we'd really love it if you'd hit that subscribe button. All of our social media can be found in the description of all our episodes, and I've even included this week a link to our YouTube. Y'all have a really good week.
Look, it's James.